People who live in Baltimore don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods. And citizens all across the state are outraged by the daily reports of this rampant gang violence. We launched an aggressive, coordinated surge to back up the beleaguered city police force. We sent in over 500 state and federal and local law enforcement officers from 26 different agencies into the city, and we made over 1,900 arrests. We launched a strike force consisting of more than 200 additional law enforcement personnel from 16 federal and state law enforcement agencies. Most people who commit a violent felony in Baltimore City are never convicted. And a staggering 60% of those who are actually convicted of committing a violent crime with a gun do not serve any serious jail time. They are simply released back out onto the streets to commit violent felonies again and again. That is completely unacceptable. This deadly violence must stop. We're talking about taking our communities back and saving lives. And the time has come for all of us to take a stand together. I'm calling on leaders at every level of government to join our efforts to impose tougher sentences for those who repeatedly commit these violent crimes. Enough is enough. Let's come together and do what it takes to get these violent shooters off our streets once and for all.
Really sad actually that this had to happen, and to actually make the community wake up and realize we do have a problem. It's not just in Baltimore City, it's in our county, it's where our families live.
It's happened right here, and then there's houses right behind here. Very, very dangerous situation, and so sad for the families that have been affected.
The lit flare from one of these kids actually thrown at my house and hit my house right where my kids sleep at, and it's to the point now where I'm fed up with it. I've called the police department, I've asked for more patrols.
Baltimore is not all about the 262 people who pulled the trigger. Or was it 262 people that pulled the trigger? Was it just 50 people that pulled the trigger? We have the Baltimore City Police that sent us emails that they go support us. Yes, we have people out here to support us, but we have 262 people that have been murdered today. Why isn't it packed out here? Why? Why isn't it packed out here? Why y'all not making a big difference out here? Come on now, I can't do it alone. My daughter's out here. My granddaughter's out here. She's 8 years old. The last kid that got shot yesterday is 9 years old. What would you do if that was your family member that got shot? You would want us. You would talk about what the mayor is not doing. You would talk about what the governor's not doing. You would talk about what Kevin Davis not doing. What are you doing?
We're with Pastor Wright at Merritt Park Baptist Church, and we are standing in their memorial garden. And the reason that we are here is because The drug problem that we have in our community is driving the crime problem, the shootings, the stabbings, people breaking into other people's houses. And Pastor Wright was on top of that a long time ago and had said that the crime was going to escalate once the North Point Government Center was closed and the police station was moved.
There was a death of a 3-year-old girl who was killed by a drunk driver, the death of an 8-year-old in Cecil County who was beaten, strangled to death, and raped. That guy was on probation, not properly supervised. And then the other young man that stabbed the woman 32 times in Anne Arundel County, who also was in my class, and they couldn't find programs.
All the orders come out of Towson from the developers, the lawyers, special interests, and the powerful insiders, so they don't need you.
Political figures need to remember they are working for the people and to respect them. And my God, I've seen so much crime in our neighborhood. It sickens me to see how many people's homes are being broken into when they're home.
Eventually, something horrible happens. Trust me. I've seen this movie before. It does not have a happy ending.
Welcome to Nothing But the Truth. I'm Scott Collier, and I'm here with my friend Tony Restano, and we're going to be talking about crime. I've had a crime problem in my community, and Tony, you've had a crime issue in your area as well.
Correct.
Crime is rampant all throughout Baltimore County. There's a lot of murders too. Now, what is some of the stuff you're concerned about?
A woman was carjacked in Rogers Forge, a Towson community. And in looking at the crime stats in Towson, filtering out things like property crimes, traffic crimes, there were 170 violent crimes in Towson in the last 6 months. And then if you go back a little farther and pick up some nice weather last fall, and those numbers go well over 200 violent crimes.
Are we talking about armed robberies in stores?
Assaults,
muggings?
Assaults, robberies, rapes. And an aside is that the crime stats from Towson University are not available.
Okay.
So those numbers would most likely be higher.
And what about people breaking into homes? Do you have a great deal of that happening in your area in Towson?
I've filtered out property crime. These are just violent crimes against people.
Okay. We've had a lot of the breaking and entering in Dundalk, which is a huge danger, and somebody coming into your house is very concerning. I don't want to see somebody I haven't welcomed into my house, and that's becoming so prevalent.
Nationally, crime stats are down. So I'd be interested to see how these crime stats match up against 5 years ago.
Tony was at a meeting with the county executive and shared some of the information there too, so we're going to take a look at that right now.
I would like to start out with a quality of life issue. I was looking at the crime stats from the Towson Circle down to south to WMAR TV, and right on the York Road corridor, in the last 6 months there has been over 250 violent crimes. So that could be assaults, however the county police categorize these crimes. I was flabbergasted and astounded at the numbers.
How do people in your community feel about the crime? Is it a big topic of conversation that people are talking about? Or are you just as one concerned citizen looking at it, or is it larger than that?
Well, it's certainly larger than that, certainly larger than me. A lot of people are concerned about it, but it's not really at the top of public consciousness. Because during the day, Towson looks fine. It's a bustling government center, bustling court center, Towson Town Mall, but when it gets dark, things change, and there is definitely a crime problem.
Yes, in the day it looks like Mayberry. I just visited the courthouse the other day, and everybody seemed very happy, living a great life, and it was pretty amazing the difference between my community and the Towson area. We're going to take a look at the shooting that occurred in the Dundalk area and how my community is looking a lot like Baltimore City. So let's take a look at that now. Shootings, robberies, crimes happening all the time, open air drug markets. It's sad. So as a community, we need to stand up and fight and take our streets back. We also need to put a lot of pressure on our politicians who seem to be turning a blind eye to so many things that are happening, and they want to tell us that crime is reduced. I don't see that, and many of the people that I speak to don't feel that crime is going down in our community. Actually, it's escalating. So seeing this clip, Tony, I feel like my community and a lot of Baltimore is becoming more and more like Baltimore City. We're having some real problems. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's horrendous. The crime is absolutely bleeding into the county. I mean, we had a police officer run over and killed, a woman carjacked in Rogers Forge, and the shooting that you're talking about. We had trouble at East Point Mall. We've had trouble at White Marsh Mall. We've had trouble at Towsontown Mall. I think the police are doing the best they can.
I think that they do a good job, but there's some areas that I am concerned about. I've reached out to them. They haven't given me information. And one of the things that I am really concerned about was a robbery that happened in the community that the shootings happened. And there was 2 shootings that happened there. And the gun that was used in the robbery could have been used in either one of those shootings. And I asked the police for a picture or some video that they had from the store. The more that you share it and the more places that you share it, the more opportunity you have for people to possibly identify someone. So that's exactly what I want to do. And without the police sharing that information with me, I feel like they're trying to hide something. And when I've tried to go back and find some of the information that's online, it's not there. And another crime that happened was a break-in to the gun store in Essex, and I tried to find out from the police how many guns were taken, what kind of ammunition was taken, and I do believe that they actually caught the person that did that, but I don't know how many guns that they did retrieve that were stolen, how much ammunition, and this is a concern. If there's guns floating around out on the street, I think the more that you talk about it, the more that you get people concerned, and the possibility of somebody coming forward. The gun store in Dundalk was robbed, and they took all kinds of guns in broad daylight. I don't know why the police wouldn't tell me the other night when I asked if they were looking for somebody, why they wouldn't share that information with me then. If they're looking for somebody and somebody's out on the street and it's a public safety issue that there's a person out on the street that's a shooter that just shot somebody and the police have not apprehended that person, and even if there was a gun out on the street, that which there was, more than likely. I don't know that they retrieved the gun. I would believe that the shooter took it with him. So there's a gun out on the street and a shooter out on the street, and why wouldn't that information be brought out?
Well, sometimes giving the information may jeopardize the investigation.
I don't believe that. I don't buy that. I don't want to hear that. People need to know. People need to know. People need to know that there's a gun on the street. They need to know that somebody is in the neighborhood that's willing to shoot people.
Well, I would want to see the individual case.
It doesn't really matter. You have a shooter out on the street that just shot somebody. Why do you need to hide that? You just say, he's still out on the loose, keep an eye out, be careful. So, I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. If you were there and happened to see the person run off, I think that you would tell your neighbors that. Why won't the police tell that to the community? Why won't they let someone like myself that is trying to help them, actually trying to help them, and trying to protect the community at the same time, why wouldn't they share that information? It's totally bizarre to me. If somebody robbed me, I'd be telling you the car that they drove, how many people were there, what they looked like, what kind of clothes they were wearing. I would give you every bit of information I could so you would know who this person was. You say, oh my goodness, this is the person that he was describing. You know, let me call the police right now. Let's get this person or people off of the street.
Sorry, Scott, can't answer your question.
Okay, but you understand my concern.
I do understand your concern.
Yes, I mean, it just doesn't make much sense. I put something online about this situation, about how I was unhappy about that, and I wish that the police were sharing that information. And then they put something out about a elderly fellow at the store. The guy set his wallet down, and the guy lifted his wallet. Now, I'm glad that they shared that information, but I want to know why they're not sharing stuff about the robbers. A robber that is brazen enough to go into a store like that, he's willing to come back a lot of times. And I know people at the store. I've gotten to know them. We're not barbecuing together or anything, but they're part of my community. I want to make sure that they're protected, and anybody else that's in the store at that time. You could have kids, you could have elderly people, people of all ages that are in the store while a robbery's going on, and anything can happen. You can see that I'm very passionate about this term.
I can see that you're very passionate.
Yes. Why I'm upset? I'm upset. Why wouldn't you share the information? I mean, you know, if somebody is trying to have you solve something, and they're only giving you a part of the puzzle and say, please take care of this. And, you know, we want help. You know, come on, give us your help. I mean, I'm trying to give every bit of help that I can. And I know that other people in the community would like to help too. But how can we do that without the information?
I guess you can't.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, we have the illegals coming into the community with sanctuary cities. Catherine Pugh was pushing for that in the Baltimore area, and she's taken leave.
Well, the only comment I have is that her children's book must have been a pretty good book to get $500,000 from the University of Maryland Medical System and then get another $114,000 or $140,000 from Kaiser Permanente, I believe it was. Meanwhile, Baltimore City is dumping raw sewage in the Jones Falls, and last winter the schools didn't have heat, and the women living in public housing have to provide sexual favors in order to get their places fixed.
Wow.
So
I didn't hear that.
Oh, yes. So the whole city is in chaos, but the mayor does have the money to give legal help to illegal aliens.
Yes. And, well, she was saying that part of that money was going to be something that she raised from private donations. And I would say that if her book was so good and she wanted to get it out the way that she wanted to, why wasn't she getting private donations for that instead of going the route that she did? And the press conference that I saw, it was pretty amazing. She was rolling out different baby clothes and different items that she had, and it looked like a mother that had just had a baby shower and was showing all the different gifts that she was so happy about. It was totally bizarre. The subject that you had brought up is one that I really want to talk about. In D.C., MS-13 gang members had stabbed someone 100 times or more and then set them on fire.
I didn't know that they set them on fire.
Yes.
The victim had been stabbed over 100 times.
How horrible.
Right now, I believe Montgomery County is ground zero for sanctuary jurisdictions in Maryland, Prince George's as well, and I believe that it's no accident that you have MS-13 gang activity in Montgomery and Prince George's County and having it bleeding into Anne Arundel County when you make these jurisdictions sanctuary jurisdictions. So you make it easy for somebody to come in, they're going to go that way.
Oh, it's easy for them to come in, and we have a clip right now showing that.
There they are, guys, right there. They're coming through. We're at the border. I told Border Patrol I'd stay out of their hair.
You have to go back to the bridge. Go back over there.
They don't want me here filming. All these people, guys, just jumped over the fence. They know they've been caught and that they're just going to get a bus ticket into Phoenix. Look at this fence, you guys. Who is this keeping out? Nobody. Right directly on the other side is Highway 2 in Mexico. Vehicles just pull right up, drop them off. This is all day, every day. Border Patrol is not happy. They do not want us down here. They do not want us exposing this.
Tony, what did you think about that clip?
It's a joke. There's basically no security at the border.
I would say insane, because the Border Patrol agents actually look like they are a welcoming committee. That they're giving them a ride somewhere, and then from there they're busing them to different places. They weren't deterring them at all. They weren't like, hey, you shouldn't be here, you need to go back across the border. They're saying, hey, well, what's your name? Let me take your picture. Okay, you want to jump in the van now? I mean, that's totally insane. Border security looks like a welcoming committee to me. One of the border agents said they expect people from 60 different countries to be coming across the border in the near future.
Wow.
And you had shared a number before of how many people that are going to be coming.
They expect more than 1 million illegals in the next year. Where does that end?
I don't know why they weren't just picking them up on the other side and bringing them over. I mean, what's the difference? I just don't see any difference. I mean, we're paying for the Border Patrol agents to be there and help them do whatever. That we're paying for the gas, we're paying for the vehicles to do this, we're paying for the bus. People enter hospitals, they get into the schools, and the amount of money that we're spending on these illegals is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, you look at Baltimore City and the problems in Baltimore City. Baltimore City needs resources. Even with their mismanagement, they need more resources. And when you have illegals coming in and taking resources that could be better put to our U.S. citizens, our citizens most in need are the ones who suffer. Those are the people in the inner city and the most recent immigrants.
People with disabilities, people that have special needs, they suffer a lot too.
Right.
So I believe it was Kansas City, they had voted to make it necessary to have a ID when you came to the voting poll. But in Maryland, they haven't. This correlates with the illegals coming in, and this will give them an opportunity to vote, which is horrible. The American people are just being slapped, told to stand on the side and, just take it. And I'm hoping that these shows will make people want to stand up and be counted and stop this practice. We really need to do that.
We should show ID to vote.
Yes, I totally agree. Why wouldn't you? You have to have ID to buy cigarettes. You have to have ID to buy alcohol. There's so many other things that you need ID for as well. So with voting, it's very important. Why wouldn't you have that as well? It's another thing that just doesn't make much sense.
Well, we can push back on some things. I don't want to sit here and sound fatalistic and just complain. Change can be made. There have been changes made.
I want to stick my foot in people's butts that deserve it. That's me. That's the way that I do things. If the truth hurts, do something about it. This is nothing but the truth. I don't mind telling it like it is.
I'm with you on that.
Okay, I thought you were. I am very happy to be part of a page that is showing information about law enforcement officers, and unfortunately, some of the things that they're showing is about how many of our officers are being killed nationwide. Here is one of the most recent officers that was killed, and there's a long list of them, and I want to publicly say that I'm very sorry about my friend Kevin Marin's nephew who was killed. And Kevin, we hope to get your story. What I would like to do is show how a family is affected after a law enforcement officer is killed. Hopefully you'd be willing to share that so people know just how devastating it is. And I am stunned at how many law enforcement officers are being killed nationwide. I'm Scott Collier, and this has been Nothing But the Truth. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, and we will be continuing to bring you more information as we move forward.